He didn't expect love that night. He was just a man in a crowded restaurant, waiting for someone who was never coming. But sometimes, the person who saves you isn't the one you're waiting for. Sometimes, they're the one brave enough to sit down and ask if you're okay.
The Gilded Antler restaurant was a suffocating tableau of warmth and wealth. It was Christmas Eve, and every gilded surface, every polished antler chandelier amplified the festive chaos. Ree Callahan, a man accustomed to the solitude of his vast Colorado ranch, felt the atmosphere like a physical weight. He adjusted the silver band of his watch for the 5th time, the metal cold against his skin, catching the soft, unforgiving candlelight. It was 8:30 at night. The reservation had been for 7:30. He sat rigidly alone at a table meticulously set for 2. Around him, the room was a symphony of shared happiness. Couples leaned in close, their laughter bright and intoxicating, their glasses clinking a joyful rhythm that hammered against Ree's mountain embarrassment. He pushed the brim of his dark brown cowboy hat further back on his head, exposing the deep worry line etched between his brows, and checked his phone again. Nothing. Silence from Jessica, the woman his well-meaning, clueless business partner had insisted was the one. Ree had called twice, sent 3 carefully worded messages that sounded progressively more desperate. The only return was the cold, hollow emptiness of the screen. This was the 9th dating attempt in the past month. 9 different women, 9 spectacular failures, each one chipping away at his already fragile hope. At this point, Ree wasn't just feeling unlucky. He was starting to believe the universe had assigned a personal, malicious grudge specifically against his love life. He stared at the untouched breadbasket, willing the earth to swallow him whole. A figure detached itself from the busy flow of the floor staff and approached his table. The waiter was striking, kind eyes the color of deep jade, a shock of auburn hair, and a crisp white shirt worn beneath a simple red apron adorned with a small, slightly ridiculous reindeer pin. His green eyes, however, held a mixture of genuine sympathy and a subtle knowing amusement. He gently placed a glass of water Ree hadn't requested onto the linen cloth. "How long are we pretending the invisible woman is just running late?" The directness of the question was like a sudden cold splash of water. Ree looked up, startled out of his self-pity. "Excuse me? Look, I've been watching you check your phone every 30 seconds for the past hour," the waiter said, not unkindly, but with utter honesty. He leaned on the empty chair. "Either you're waiting for news about a life-or-death kidney transplant, or you got stood up." He pulled a pristine notepad from his apron pocket. "I'm Asher, by the way, and I'm guessing it's the second one." Despite the sting of being exposed, Ree felt a small, reluctant smile forming. The waiter's audacity was disarming. "That obvious?" Asher let out a small, dramatic sigh. "Honey, you've rearranged the silverware 4 times now. That fork is about to surrender, and you folded your napkin into what I think is supposed to be a traumatized swine. The signs are pretty clear." Asher tilted his head, his green eyes assessing. "Christmas Eve date? Brutal." "Blind date," Ree admitted, the words tasting like ash. "Set up by a well-meaning friend." "Ouch!" Asher made a sympathetic face. "Blind dates are risky enough on regular days. On Christmas Eve, that's just asking for a holiday tragedy." He paused. "So what happened? Did she at least text a reasonable excuse?" "She stopped answering about 2 hours ago." Asher let out a low, impressive whistle. "That's cold, North Pole level cold, no pun intended." He glanced around the busy restaurant, then back at the lonely cowboy at the table for 2. "You know what? I'm making an executive decision here." Asher's tone shifted, becoming firm and conspiratorial.
You're going to order the best thing on our menu, and I am personally going to make damn sure this night doesn't end as the worst Christmas Eve of your entire life." Ree raised a skeptical eyebrow. "Is that part of the Gilded Antler's customer recovery policy?" "Nope."
That's pure Asher Cole policy. I have a strict, non-negotiable rule against letting decent people suffer alone on major holidays. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "And for the record, you seem pretty decent. Am I wrong?" I'd like to think I'm decent," Ree managed, surprised by the sudden, intense validation. "Good enough for me." Asher scribbled something decisive on his notepad. "Our chef makes this incredible braised short rib that will make you completely forget about Invisible Jessica. Trust me on this." "How did you know her name was Jessica?" Ree asked, genuinely bewildered. "Lucky guess. She sounds like a Jessica," Asher shrugged, utterly sincere. They always do. For the first time that entire evening, Ree laughed, a real deep laugh that felt strange and necessary. "You're very strange." "Thank you. I work hard at it." Asher's smile was genuine and profoundly warm. "But seriously, no one should have to eat alone on Christmas Eve. So while I can't sit with you because I'm technically employed, I can absolutely stop by between orders and keep you company. Deal?" Ree found himself nodding, drawn in by the simple, radical kindness. "Deal." True to his word, Asher returned to Ree's table every 15 minutes. He brought a fresh basket of artisanal bread, made subtle, hilarious jokes about the most overdressed customers without ever being mean, and quickly, casually shared stories about his own string of disastrous dates. There was the man who had brought his passive-aggressive mother along for emotional support on their first date, the one who spent 2 relentless hours detailing every trade and rivalry in his fantasy football league, and the legendary one who had asked Asher to pay the entire bill because he'd conveniently forgotten his wallet at his other boyfriend's house. "Wait," Ree interrupted, pausing with his fork halfway to his mouth. "Other boyfriend?" "Right, the sheer, stunning audacity." Asher laughed, shaking his head. "Some people truly test your faith in humanity." "But then," Asher continued, the smile softening into something more tender, "then you meet someone who restores that faith just a little bit." "Yes, is that what I'm doing? Restoring your faith?" Ree asked, a knot in his chest loosening. "Maybe." Asher set down a slice of dense chocolate cake, the richest, darkest thing Ree had ever seen, insisting quietly it was on the house. "You haven't been rude once, even though you have every reason to be in a foul mood. You haven't taken your frustration on me or the kitchen or the busboy." "And you actually laughed at my truly terrible jokes. That makes you better than 70% of the people I meet in this restaurant, any day of the week." Ree took a bite of the cake. It was dark, rich, and utterly magnificent. "This is incredible. I know, our pastry chef is a magician." Asher checked his watch, a quick, efficient flick of the wrist. "We close in an hour. What are your plans for tomorrow, Ree? Please tell me you're not spending Christmas alone, eating microwave dinners and watching terrible infomercials." That scenario, horrifyingly, was exactly his plan. "That was exactly my plan, actually." Asher's face fell instantly. "Oh, no, that is absolutely, utterly unacceptable." He grabbed a fresh napkin from the table edge and quickly scribbled something down in neat, urgent handwriting. "Okay, this is crazy, and you can absolutely, completely say no, but how would you feel about coming to my family's Christmas dinner tomorrow?" Ree stared at him, bewildered. "What? I know it sounds insane. We just met 12 hours ago, technically. But my mom always makes enough food to feed a small army. My brother will probably challenge you to competitive video games, and I promise we are only moderately dysfunctional." Asher pushed the napkin toward him, his green eyes earnest and serious. "That's my address. Dinner starts at 5. Just show up. No pressure, seriously. But please don't be alone." "Why?" Ree asked, the question escaping on a ragged breath. "Why would you invite a complete stranger to your family Christmas?" Asher met his eyes, the light in the restaurant suddenly seeming to dim around their table. "Isolating their moment. Because I've been stood up before, Ree. I know how much it hurts to feel invisible, especially on a night like this. And because something tells me you're a good person who honestly deserves better than spending the holiday in cold silence." He stood up, his shift over. "Think about it. The invitation stands either way." Asher walked away to manage a nearby table, leaving Ree alone again. But the loneliness was different now. Ree looked down at the napkin, an address in bold, neat handwriting, followed by a small, perfectly drawn smiley face. He folded it carefully, meticulously, and put it inside his jacket pocket. For the first time in many months, Ree felt a profound shift inside him. It wasn't just hope. It was the simple, overwhelming warmth of human kindness offered without expectation or agenda. Whatever it was, it felt like the best, most unexpected Christmas gift he had received in years. Ree woke up on Christmas morning to the insistent gold of sunlight streaming through the massive windows of his ranch house. The vast, silent Colorado landscape stretched below him, a clean slate blanketed in fresh, sparkling snow. He lay in bed for a long moment, staring at the small, creased napkin resting on his nightstand. The address seemed to glow in the intense morning light, daring him to be brave, daring him to leap. His logical mind, the one that ran a multi-million-dollar cattle business, listed all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Asher was a complete stranger. His family was equally unknown. He could be walking into an ambush of awkwardness, a catastrophic social disaster. But his heart, the part of him that had laughed genuinely for the first time in months last night, whispered a single compelling word: go. By noon, Ree had committed the cardinal sin of changing clothes 6 times. The tweed blazer was too formal. He looked like he was attending a cattle auction. The casual flannel seemed disrespectful. He finally settled on a careful compromise: dark, well-fitting jeans, a luxurious navy cashmere sweater, and a tailored brown leather jacket. He stopped at a high-end wine shop and bought a bottle that cost more than most people's weekly groceries, then immediately second-guessed his extravagance and bought a box of expensive artisan chocolates as a safer backup. The Cole house was nestled in a modest neighborhood, where every home seemed to be locked in friendly, fierce competition for the title of best decorated. Number 42 won by sheer enthusiasm. Multicolored lights strung across the roof, an inflatable snowman slightly deflated in the yard, and a charmingly cluttered wreath of pine cones and red ribbons on the door. Ree sat in his truck for 3 agonizing minutes, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. He was paralyzed by a fear far greater than any market crash, the fear of social exposure. Before he could summon the courage to turn the key and flee, the front door burst open. Asher stood there in a ridiculous bright green sweater embroidered with a sequined Christmas tree pattern, waving wildly at him with both arms. "I saw you sitting out there having an existential crisis, Ree," he called out, his voice carrying easily across the snowy lawn. "Get in here before you freeze solid." Ree grabbed the wine and chocolates and walked up the snowy path, a grin breaking through his anxiety. Asher met him at the door with a huge, relieved smile. "You actually came. I told Mom you would, but she bet me $5 you'd chicken out." Asher took the wine bottle, and his eyes widened dramatically. "Whoa, this is fancy, like really fancy. We usually drink the stuff that comes in boxes." "I can take it back and get something else," Ree offered, suddenly worried he had overstepped. "Are you kidding? Mom is going to lose her mind. Come on." Asher pulled him inside with an easy familiarity. The house was instantly and overwhelmingly warm, smelling gloriously of cinnamon, roasting turkey, and the faint, sweet scent of old holiday nostalgia. A towering, slightly crooked Christmas tree dominated the small living room, absolutely loaded with ornaments that looked handmade and collected over many, many years. Photos covered every available wall space, chronicling Asher and another boy growing up through various charmingly awkward phases. "Mom! Finn! He came!" Asher shouted over the music. A woman in her 50s emerged from the kitchen, wiping flour-covered hands on a massive apron that proclaimed her the queen of the kitchen. She had the same brilliant green eyes as Asher, and a smile so instantly welcoming it seemed to melt the ice Ree had carried in his own heart. "You must be Ree. I'm Marion." She enveloped him in a strong, warm hug before he could even offer a stiff handshake. "Welcome, welcome. Asher wouldn't stop talking about you this morning. Said you were too nice to spend Christmas alone." "Thank you for having me, Mrs. Cole." "Marion, please. Mrs. Cole was my mother-in-law, and she was absolutely terrifying."
Marion took the wine bottle and gasped dramatically. "Oh my goodness, this has French words on it. We are definitely drinking this." A younger man bounded down the stairs, wearing fluffy reindeer antlers that bobbed as he moved. "Is this the guy from the restaurant, the one who got ditched by what's-her-name?" "Finn!" Asher threw a couch pillow at his brother. "What? You told us the whole story." Finn dodged the pillow easily, turning to Ree with a hand extended. "I'm Finn, the younger and significantly more attractive brother. Welcome to the chaos." "Ignore him. He thinks he's funny," Asher said firmly. "I am funny. Mom, am I funny?" "You're something," Marion called back from the kitchen, and Ree found himself laughing again. The Cole family had an energy that was completely foreign to him. His own childhood had been quiet, structured, filled with the demands of ranch chores and high expectations. This house didn't just contain life, it buzzed with it, with noise, with open emotion, and with unconditional love. "Come sit," Asher guided him to the worn but comfortable couch. "Dinner will be ready in about 30 minutes. Want something to drink? We have soda, juice, beer, and now this fancy French wine that I'm genuinely scared to open." "Water's fine." Finn plopped down in an armchair across from them. "So, Ree, Asher says you're some kind of big-shot cowboy. What does that mean exactly? Do you wrestle steers for a living?" "Finn!" Asher buried his face in his hands. "What? It's a valid question." Ree smiled easily. "Nothing that exciting. I own a ranch. We raise cattle." "That actually sounds pretty cool," Finn admitted. "Can you teach me how to use a lasso? I just want to see if I can rope my ex-boyfriend's car so he can't go see that guy from his gym." "No, he absolutely cannot help you commit a crime," Asher said firmly. "You're no fun." Marion returned with a tray of snacks, cheese, crackers, and vegetables arranged in a way that was more enthusiastic than elegant. "So, Ree, tell us about yourself. Asher mentioned you've had some rough luck with dating lately." Ree felt his face heat up, but Marion's gaze was gentle. "Honey, he told us everything," Marion confessed. "The crying ex-wife lady, the one with the secret dog, the one who confused you with someone else. You've been through the wars." "It's been a challenging few weeks," Ree admitted. "Challenging?" Finn snorted. "That sounds like a nightmare. Why do you keep trying blind dates? Have you ever heard of dating apps?" "I've tried those too. Same results." "Maybe you're looking in the wrong places," Marion suggested gently, her green eyes full of wisdom. "Sometimes the best things come when we stop looking so hard." Asher caught Ree's eye and smiled softly, a shared silent moment of understanding. Something beautiful and unspoken passed between them. Dinner was served at a table that was technically too small for 4 people and the overwhelming amount of food.
There was a glistening turkey, mashed potatoes piled high, steaming stuffing, green bean casserole, ruby red cranberry sauce, and enough rolls to build a fort. 3 different types of pie waited patiently on the counter. The china didn't match. The glasses were all different sizes, but everything felt utterly, irrevocably perfect. "Before we eat," Marion announced, beaming, "we do a little tradition." She clapped her hands together. "Everyone shares one thing they're truly grateful for this year." Finn went first. "I'm grateful I finally saved enough money to go back to college in January, and that my family didn't actually disown me when I dropped out the first time." "We seriously considered it," Asher teased. "Your turn," Finn shot back. Asher grew thoughtful, his eyes distant for a moment. "I'm grateful for second chances, for new friendships, and for people who remind me that simple kindness matters more than any material success." He looked directly at Ree when he said it, the silent message landing like a heartfelt truth. Marion dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. "I'm grateful for my beautiful sons, and for the unexpected guests who make holidays special." She smiled warmly at Ree. "Your turn, dear." Ree felt a sudden, unexpected lump in his throat. His voice was thick with emotion as he spoke, forcing the words out. "I'm grateful that a very kind waiter absolutely refused to let me eat alone last night,
and for being welcomed into a home that in 24 hours already feels more like family than any place I've been in a long time. Finn made an exaggerated, dramatic crying sound. Now I'm going to cry, and I just did my makeup. You're not wearing makeup, Asher pointed out. Exactly, it's tragic. Dinner was filled with a glorious chaos of stories and laughter. Marian told wonderfully embarrassing tales about both her sons. Finn shared his dreams of becoming a teacher. Asher talked about the endless parade of characters who passed through the Gilded Antler every week. Ree found himself sharing things he never talked about. His compulsive workaholic tendencies, the deep, persistent loneliness that success couldn't cure, and how building his business had somehow left him utterly empty in his personal life. Money doesn't buy happiness, Marian said wisely, stacking her plate, but family and love, Ree, those are truly priceless. After dinner came games, competitive board games, card games where Finn kept loudly inventing new rules, and charades that had everyone laughing until their stomachs ached. Ree, the successful, stoic ranch owner, couldn't remember the last time he had simply played, simply enjoyed a moment without the demanding checklist of work or obligations weighing on his mind. As the evening wound down, Ree helped Asher clear the dishes while Marian and Finn argued loudly over which pie should be attacked first. "Thank you for inviting me," Ree said, quietly, the steam from the soapy water warm between them. "This has honestly been the best Christmas I've had in years, maybe ever." Asher smiled, his hands covered in soapy bubbles. "Thank you for coming, for being brave enough to accept a crazy invitation from a complete stranger. You really didn't have to. You're not a stranger anymore." "No," Asher agreed, his eyes meeting Ree's over the mismatched dishes. "I guess I'm not." In that single quiet moment, standing in a modest, messy kitchen with the sound of genuine family laughter in the background, Ree realized something had irreversibly shifted in his life. Something important, something profoundly real. The morning after Christmas, Ree woke up in his silent ranch house feeling an acute sense of dislocation. The expensive leather furniture and the massive stone fireplace that usually brought him comfort now felt cold and aggressively empty. He made coffee and sat by the window, but his gaze kept drifting back to the city, to the warmth he'd left behind. His mind replayed every moment. Marian's hugs, Finn's terrible jokes, and above all, Ash's smile, a genuine, honest light that seemed to fill every room he entered.
He picked up his phone 3 times to text Asher, putting it down each time. What to say? Thank you felt impossibly formal. I had fun felt too casual for a life-altering event. I haven't stopped thinking about you since I left felt far too intense, even though it was the absolute, unvarnished truth. Finally, around noon, his phone buzzed. A message from Asher. "So, did we scare you away completely, or are you still recovering from Finn's aggressive charade performance?" Ree smiled instantly, the tension in his chest releasing. "Still recovering. I didn't know it was possible to act out The Empire Strikes Back using only aggressive hand gestures. He has a gift. She's gonna love that." A pause. "Also, what are you doing this afternoon?" Ree looked around his empty house again. "Nothing concrete. Why? Want to grab coffee? There's a place near the park that makes the best hot chocolate in Denver. My treat, since you brought that impossibly fancy wine yesterday. Meet me at River Park Cafe at 2? Ree found himself grinning at his phone like a lovesick teenager. "I'll be there." He arrived 15 minutes early, giving him ample time to panic internally about the true nature of this meeting. Was it a date? Just a friendly follow-up? Asher arrived exactly at 2, wearing jeans and a thick, soft burgundy sweater, his auburn hair loose around his shoulders. He looked handsome in a completely real, grounded way, a way that had nothing to do with expensive labels or structured formality. "You're early," he observed, sitting down across from him. "Very responsible of you." "I didn't want to be late. After being stood up, I bet you're extra careful about that now." Asher ordered 2 hot chocolates. "So, how does it feel to be back in your normal life after experiencing the Cole family chaos?" Ree considered the question,
wrapping his hands around the warm mug. "Honestly, it feels quiet. Too quiet. That's how I feel about your world, I imagine. All grand and organized, probably with furniture that matches." Asher stirred his hot chocolate, his gaze suddenly serious. "Can I ask you something? Why do you work so much? 70-hour weeks? That seems like a lot to maintain." Ree met his eyes, trusting him with the vulnerability. "I suppose because I'm good at it. Running the ranch, solving problems, making deals, that part makes sense to me. The rest of life has always been harder. The rest of life being relationships, connections, knowing what to say to people who aren't talking about livestock prices. Until I met you, I had forgotten how to just talk to someone. Really talk." Asher's cheeks flushed slightly, pleased by the confession. "You make it sound like I did something special. I just refused to let you eat alone." "That was special, Asher. More special than you know." Asher leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Can I be honest with you about something, please? I haven't stopped thinking about yesterday, about your family, about how it felt to be included in something real, and mostly about you." Ree felt his heart suddenly race. "I know we just met. I know this is probably too fast, but I would really like to take you on a proper date, if you're interested." Asher bit his lip, a small, genuine smile forming. "Define proper date." "Dinner at a nice restaurant, maybe a movie or a walk, something where we get to know each other better without your brother providing sound effects in the background." Asher laughed, the sound warm and easy. Finn does have a tendency to provide unnecessary commentary. He reached across the table and lightly touched Ree's hand. "I would love to go on a proper date with you, Ree, but I have one condition." "What's that?" "You have to promise that if you ever feel like you're drowning in work again, if you ever feel that loneliness creeping back, you'll call me. Even if we're just friends, even if this date goes terribly." Ree felt something tight in his chest loosen, a burden he hadn't known he carried finally lifting. Deal. They spent the next 3 hours in that coffee shop talking about everything. Ree learned that Asher had worked at the restaurant to help his mom with bills after his father's passing, setting aside his dream of becoming a teacher.
Asher learned about Ree's distant family, his deep-seated loneliness, and his desperate, disastrous attempts to find connection in all the wrong places. "You were looking for something perfect," Asher said gently. "But perfect doesn't exist. Real does." "Is that what this is?" Ree asked, his voice low. "Real?" "I think so. Scary, right?" Ree smiled. "Terrifying, but in a good way." Their first official date happened 3 days later. Ree held Asher's hand during a walk through downtown Denver to see the Christmas lights that were still up, and it felt like the most natural, settled thing in the world. The second date was ice skating, where Asher fell 7 times and laughed with pure, unabashed joy every single time. The third was a movie that neither of them watched because they were too busy talking in whispers. January came and Ree found himself back at the Cole house every Sunday for Marion's dinner. February brought Valentine's Day, where Ree surprised Asher by cooking dinner himself, a smoky, comical disaster that Asher loved anyway. March, April, May passed in a blur of small, essential moments. Some big, like when Ree met Ash's extended family. Some small, like lazy Sunday mornings drinking coffee and reading the paper together. Ree cut his grueling work hours, hired a new foreman, and learned that success meant absolutely nothing without someone to share it with. By summer, Ree had a permanent drawer at Asher's apartment. By fall, Asher had a key to the ranch house. They balanced each other perfectly. Asher taught him to breathe, to find joy in simple things, and to let people see past the cowboy hat. Ree encouraged Asher's dreams, helping him enroll in online college classes, proving that wanting more didn't mean abandoning the people you loved. When Christmas came around again, Ree knew exactly what his plan was. Christmas Eve found him back at the Gilded Antler, sitting at the very same table where he had been stood up a year earlier. But this time, Asher sat across from him, handsome in a deep green shirt, laughing, completely unaware of the life-changing moment that was about to occur.
"I can't believe it's been a year," Asher said, looking around the restaurant. "Remember how pathetic you looked sitting here alone?" "Thanks for that. I remember you calling my napkin a traumatized swan."
Asher reached across the table and took his hand, his eyes warm. Best decision I ever made, talking to you that night. Funny, Ree said, his heart pounding a slow, deliberate rhythm. I was just thinking the exact same thing. Ree stood up, ignoring the sudden rush of heat in his cheeks. Asher, this time last year, I thought I had everything figured out. I had land, success, a big house, but I was missing the only thing that actually mattered. He looked down at the man who had changed his world. I was missing someone to share it all with. Ree got down on one knee, pulling a small, soft velvet box from his pocket. Around them, the restaurant grew silent, the Christmas music seeming to fade away. I'm asking you to marry me, Ree said, his voice steady but thick with emotion. I'm asking you to keep teaching me how to live, how to laugh, how to find joy in the chaos. I'm asking you to let me spend every Christmas for the rest of my life with you and your incredible, wonderful family. Tears streamed down Asher's face, a joyous, relieved waterfall. You practiced this speech, didn't you? For 3 weeks. It's perfect. Asher laughed through his tears. Yes, I'll marry you. The restaurant erupted in applause. Ree slipped the ring onto his finger and kissed him, feeling like the luckiest man alive. Later that night, at the Cole house, surrounded by Marion and Finn and enough food for an army, Ree realized something profound. He had spent his whole life searching for perfect, when all he had ever needed was real. He needed someone who saw past his money and his success, someone who challenged him, who made him laugh, and who absolutely refused to let him hide behind his work. He needed Asher, the waiter with the kindest heart, who had saved his Christmas and changed his life with 5 simple, spontaneous words. As midnight approached, Ree caught Asher's eye across the room. He mouthed, "I love you." Ree raised his glass in a toast, his voice ringing with happiness. To Christmas miracles, to second chances, and to the brave waiter who refused to let a sad cowboy eat alone. To family, Marion added, her eyes shining. To love, Finn said, wiping his eyes dramatically. To us, Asher finished, his hand finding Ree's. And to every Christmas from now until forever. Outside, snow began to fall again over Denver, blanketing the city in quiet white. Inside the small house on a quiet street, a new, real family celebrated, and that made all the difference. If this story made you feel something, even just a little, then you're not alone. Stories like this exist because real love exists. And if you'd like to hear more stories about finding love in unexpected places, about being seen, chosen, and understood, subscribe to Gay Stories Chronicles. You're always welcome here.